Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Fish Market Academy, where we teach you how to fish for gains. So we just hit our first 400 subscribers. Thanks so much to everyone that subscribed. Let's aim for 500 next. And I just want to share a bit more about what this channel is going to be about, which is mainly to help working adults to actually achieve financial independence and retire early. And I really believe that knowing about DeFi, decentralized finance, will help them to achieve financial independence and retire early, also known as FIRE, before they even reach 40. Because I think the space is still very new, and in the next 10 years, right, assuming you are not yet 30, but in the next 10 years, before you reach 40, the space can grow another 100x, which can definitely allow most people, or some people at least, to achieve their financial independence and retire early before 40, which they can then choose to pursue their passion, whatever that may be. So that's why I want to talk about what is DeFi, and this video is going to be an introduction, a higher level overview on the different aspects and pillars within the DeFi ecosystem. So with that, let's go through what is DeFi. So intro to DeFi. DeFi basically stands for Decentralized Finance, which is basically we are recreating the traditional financial systems using blockchain and smart contracts. And these systems are open to everyone, and they don't require an intermediary like a bank. Basically, they don't require a centralized or a trusted third party for you to be able to transact with one another. So DeFi is pretty interesting because by replacing the traditional middleman in the traditional ecosystems or financial systems, you actually get to earn the fees that they actually charge. And by replacing them and earning the fees in place of their services, you can earn up to 10 to 40% more per year, right, on your existing assets. So I'll go into more details about that in this video in just a bit. Alright, so some of the things we'll be going through will be the wallets, the stablecoins, the lending and borrowing protocols, as well as Decentralized Exchange. Other derivatives and insurance and all this, I might be talking about them in the next video because I don't want to make this video too long. Okay, so for wallets, mainly there are two different types, centralized wallets and decentralized wallets. Centralized wallets are basically like your Coinbase, your Binance, this kind of centralized platforms where they actually hold your assets for you, and you don't actually have the keys to these assets. You have the login details to get these assets, but you don't actually have the keys to take them out of the platform without the platform passing them to you. So it's actually not your keys, and therefore the saying goes, not your keys, not your coins. So centralized platforms like your Binance and your Coinbase, whenever you look at the balances in these accounts, think of it this way. The balance is not what you have, the balance is what you have lent to them and what they owe you. It's the same for your bank account. If you open up your bank account app or you go to the ATM and withdraw money and then they show you your available balance, that's not how much you actually have. That's how much you have lent to them and what they actually owe you. So in the event, if they were to go under, right, they go bankrupt, they may not be able to actually pass you your funds. Or if they got hacked, then they may not also be able to pass your funds. So your funds are also somewhat at risk when they're in centralized wallets. Although largely speaking, if they are in a very big and reputable bank or an exchange, then usually nothing would go wrong until something goes wrong. So it's good to know about the risk of having your assets on a centralized exchange as well, or centralized wallet. The other type of wallet is a decentralized wallet. So a decentralized wallet has two main types. Your hardware core wallet, which is a lot more secure. Hardware core wallet like Ledger looks something like this over here. It's a small looking, thumb drive looking wallet that actually contains the private seed. So that actually is not hot because it is not linked to the internet at all times. You actually have to physically enter your PIN in order for the transaction to be approved, Other type of wallet is an online hot wallet like MetaMask, which is one of the most popular hot wallets in crypto. And it basically allows you to interact with smart contract protocols very easily just by clicking a few buttons without requiring a physical device. But because they are online, they are riskier. If your website or your desktop or your computer or your mobile phone got compromised by a hacker, by a virus, they can technically access your private keys because they are actually stored in the browser itself, and therefore it's riskier. If you have downloaded a suspicious file that has malware inside, a Trojan horse, it could actually gain access to these keys and send it to the hacker, and then they can drain the funds. They cannot do that with a cold wallet because even if they your cold wallet private keys are not on your computer. So even if they gain access to your computer, they cannot take anything out of your wallet without the physical approval on the wallet that you have to physically input, which therefore there are pros and cons to both scenarios. Realistically, you want to have all three, right? You want to put your funds on a centralized exchange for high liquidity trading, because it's very cheap, it's very fast, and the fees might be lesser and the liquidity might be quite high, so you won't experience much slippage. But try not to keep your funds, the bulk of your funds on the exchange doing nothing. Then if you are interacting with a smart contract protocol actively, right, then you might want to have it on an online hot wallet, because you have to actively and consistently, repeatedly interact with the protocols. Therefore, you might need to click a lot, and using your hardware wallet might be very inconvenient. And of course, if you just have funds that you're never going to touch for a long time, right, you can just put it on your hardware wallet and know that they are pretty safe. Yeah, so that's a bit about wallets, which is one of the key aspects about money, right? Where you put your money and store your money is really important, because at the end of the day, you can have a lot of money, but if your money is stored at the wrong place and it gets stolen, then you would have lost all the money and you would have wasted all your time and effort. So that's why I spend a bit more time talking about wallets. Okay, the next one is stablecoins. So stablecoins are basically they represent fiat currency on the blockchain. They represent the value of fiat currency on the blockchain. The most popular type is asset-backed stablecoin. So USDT, right, this one over here, is actually the most popular stablecoin. I believe it's the third or fourth ranked cryptocurrency at the moment in terms of market cap. And it's basically 1 USDT equals to 1 USD backed by real life instruments, supposedly, because USDT in its case is not backed fully by cash. It's backed actually only about 3% in cash, and most of it is in questionable commercial papers, or basically short-term loans, which we don't know whether or not they are reliable or high quality. So USDT is a bit dangerous, but generally speaking, the community still recognize 1 USDT equals to $1, and therefore it's very often used to trade in and out of assets into a stable asset like USDT. But BUSD and USDC are much more safe, in my opinion, in terms of long-term holding, because they can actually show you the records. They have BUSD as monthly attestations, where they actually audit the books to show that 1 BUSD is in fact backed by 1 USD in real life FDIC insured banks, and it's regulated. So BUSD is very safe. USDC, well, they just announced their IPO, so I'm pretty sure it's safe. But the monthly attestations, I think they stopped doing that so frequently. I'm not super sure on that. I might have to check. But it is redeemable. So USDC can actually be redeemed into your bank, your local bank. Like if you're in Singapore, it can be redeemed to your DBS bank, your UOB bank directly. So it makes it very useful to own, because you know that your USDC can always be converted into SGD into your local bank very quickly. Then you have commodity-backed stablecoin such as PEXG. PEXG is basically backed by gold. So the gold is actually in a vault by Paxos, so that's why it's called PEXG, Paxos Gold, and it is audited and verified. So the gold the PEXG is represented by units of gold in real life as well. So that's generally safe as well. And then we have algorithmic stablecoins like UST, which is really interesting, because UST is actually not backed by physical US dollar in real life, but it does represent $1 US. And they, without going into too much detail, basically when UST goes up in value, like $1.10, the protocol prints more UST to devalue UST back down to $1. But if UST drops below $1 to like 90 cents, for example, the protocol actually burns UST to reduce the supply and increase the scarcity, and therefore the value of 1 UST back to $1. So I won't go into too much detail. I will be deep diving into UST in a future video when I explain about the Luna protocol, so stay tuned for that. And then the next one is DAI. So DAI is basically a collateralized stablecoin, and what that means is that it's similar to you taking a loan on your house, where you would mortgage your house out and then you will receive cash, and then the cash is sort of backed by the value of your house. So it's a very similar concept, and in DAI's case, it's primarily backed by Ethereum. So they will deposit Ethereum into the protocol, and then from there, they have collateral, which they can then use to mint DAI stablecoin. So DAI is backed by Ethereum, and there is a collateralization ratio. So if the value of the Ethereum drops too much, they may get liquidated, and there are some other balancing effects that happens to make sure that DAI remains $1 stable. And I won't go too much into that, but it's basically, these are the three main types of stablecoins. Alright, so lending and borrowing is pretty interesting. This is where you can sort of start to be your own bank, but of course there is also the centralized version of it. So I'll briefly go over the centralized versions, mainly platforms like Celsius, BlockFi, Nexo, Hodlnaut. Hodlnaut is based in Singapore, by the way. Do check them out, they're pretty cool. And they actually allow you to deposit your cryptocurrency inside, and from there you can receive interest on them. So they basically will lend out your tokens on your behalf to to established financial institutions, and they will pass back some of the interest that they receive down to you, and that's how you actually earn interest on your assets. Additionally, you can also take a loan on your existing assets by collateralizing them. So that's really similar to DAI's case, but in this case, you can choose which asset you want to receive. You don't have to receive in DAI tokens. Yeah, so that's basically centralized lending and borrowing. We call it CFI, centralized finance. So the next two on the screen, we have Aave and then you have Compound. It's a lot more interesting because they are decentralized finance protocols. And this is the part that really starts to disrupt banks, because if I need a loan today, it's going to take me quite a while to actually get a sizable loan from a bank. But in using Aave, right, or Compound, I can actually get a loan in under a minute, which is insane. Like, I would basically take my existing collateral, for example, Bitcoin, and then I would deposit it in, and then I can borrow any asset that Aave is providing as a loanable asset, for example, USDC, and then I can borrow that, and this whole thing can happen in less than a minute. So I will maintain my exposure to Bitcoin if I believe that it will continue to go up over time, but I can actually take a loan on it so that I don't have to sell it away, and can still take the money to buy and to buy basically anything that I need the money to do for. Yeah, so I will be doing a future video on Aave and Compound and this kind of lending and borrowing protocols in the future. So this is just a quick introduction to lending and borrowing protocols. So this is an example of how Aave looks like on the website. So you can see that they have different assets that you can deposit and lend. And then you can see that these are the deposit APY. So APY is basically annual percent yield. Just think of it as dividend income. So it's similar to like the interest that you earn on your assets. And you can see, like, for example, USDC or DAI, they are giving you like 3%. I include the bonus that they give you, which you can sell back into USDC to actually get the full amount. And this is far higher than your bank interest rates. And it's also given to you every single few seconds. So you don't have to wait like every month to get your revenue, income revenue or interest revenue. You can actually wait every few seconds. You see it going up by the seconds. So that's really interesting. And then you can also borrow them. So you can borrow the different protocols, different assets. Of course, on the borrow side, they have to charge you higher. So that's how they make money, right? They would take from you and give you cheap while they borrow higher, just like a bank. But the rates are generally reasonable, and you get to access them instantly and immediately, but they are not unsecured loans. They are collateralized loans, so you need to deposit more than what you actually can borrow. That prevents people from running away, basically. So more details about this in a future video. Okay, so here's the next one, Decentralized Exchange, which is one of the most exciting one in my opinion. So you know, in a traditional exchange, like if you use iFast or TD Ameritrade, Interactive Broker, Futu Trader, Tiger Broker, this kind of exchange, there is usually a centralized market maker, right? Whereby they provide the bids and the asks so that the order book remains thick. So if you were to remove them, because in a decentralized exchange, right, you want to remove the centralized party, who is going to provide the liquidity to ensure that the order book remains healthy? I mean, there's bids and there's asks, or at the very least, when you want to make a transaction, the slippage isn't too high, right? So decentralized exchange solves this problem by providing incentive to people that provide liquidity. So what does that mean? That means that you become the market maker of the exchange by providing the liquidity for a pair. Let's say you have Bitcoin, right? It's an asset that you believe will go up over time. But you don't want this Bitcoin to just sit there and do nothing. So you will take your Bitcoin, right? And then you will pair it with another commonly traded asset with that pair, like USDC, right? So Bitcoin USDC or Bitcoin Ethereum, these are very common pairs. People trade between these two assets quite often. So you will take these two assets and then you would pair them together. So the protocol website, there's a way to deposit assets into a liquidity pool. You just select the one that you want. If you have both assets, then you provide them together and pair them. And then when you provide this liquidity, you actually earn 0.2% to 0.3% of all transactions times the percent of the pool that you own. So that's very interesting. So for example, if you own, if the pool has a $10 million volume every day, so 10 million volume every day and charges a 0.3% transaction fee, and then let's just say you earn 10% of that, you own 10% of that pool, right? So 10% times 0.3% times 10 million is about $3,000 a day. So you get to make $3,000 a day by providing liquidity. You know, of course, 10% of the pool of a $10 million volume per day pool is going to be very, very expensive, but that's an example. The other interesting thing to take note is that to incentivize liquidity, most of the time, this decentralized exchange will actually provide a governance token as a reward. So governance token, for example, in QuickSwap's case, they provide Quick. In SushiSwap's case, they provide Sushi tokens. In Curve's case, they provide Curve tokens. PancakeSwap, they provide Cake tokens as reward. So when you add the governance token reward into the APR, right, your earnings actually can dramatically increase to the point where you are earning anywhere from 10 to 40% to even 100% per year, on top of the growth of your existing asset. So if you hold like Bitcoin and Ethereum, and they both go up 100% a year, on top of that 100% that you earn from the growth of the asset, the native intrinsic asset value, you also earn an additional 10 to 40% of the value of those assets together from the fees that you generate as well as the reward token that you receive. So that makes it very incentivizing. That makes it very incentivizing to actually provide liquidity on the pools, and it allows you to tide through volatility in the market, knowing that your assets are not just doing nothing, they are actually continuing to generate income as well. So that's very interesting. Then of course there is also the order book side, which is very similar to a more traditional type of exchange where there is like an order book where you can see the bids and asks. So that one also has a liquidity pool. They will basically take the liquidity pool and then they have their own market maker algorithm that would add the bids and asks accordingly. Yeah, so those are quite interesting. And of course they also provide governance token to incentivize you to provide liquidity. So governance token is something that I'll be talking about in the next video, but think of them as shares. So basically when the protocol earns money, as the token holder of the governance token, you actually get a portion of the fees. So governance token is a bit interesting. There's a lot of ways of people doing it, so I'll be talking about that in a future video. Yeah, so with that, I've come to the end of part 1 for this video. I understand it can be a bit lengthy. I'll be doing individual deep dive videos for each of these pillars that I mentioned, but this video is really meant to give a beginner or someone who has no idea about DeFi a rough overview of what DeFi is about. So hope you guys found it useful, and I'll see you guys again soon.